One of my favorite stories is told by the Hasidic Jews. There was a man who was very rich, but very miserly. He never shared his great wealth, his money, with anyone else. One day the rabbi said to him, "Come over here and look at this window." The man looked out the window, and the rabbi asked, "What do you see?" "I see people," replied the man. The rabbi led him to a mirror and asked, "And now what do you see?" "I see myself," came the reply. The wise rabbi said, "Behold, this window is just a pane of glass. This mirror is also just a pane of glass, but it has been covered with a little silver. As soon as you add a little silver, you cease to see other people, and you see only yourself." What is it that we see? When we hear the story of a man born blind who was given the gift of sight, we may wonder what it was that this man saw when his eyes were opened for the first time. What is it that any of us sees when we open our eyes? We are all looking at that same pane of glass, yet one person sees one thing while another sees quite another thing. A hungry person looks at a field of ripe corn and says, "At last I can eat." The farmer looks at the same field and says, "The cash will flow in now." The poet looks at it and writes a song about it. We see the same thing, but we don't. It registers differently in the heart of each of us. One person looks at fire and becomes afraid that it might burn down his house. Another person looks at the fire and is drawn to it because that person is cold and in need of warmth. Still another person, a Zoroastrian perhaps, sees there the very symbol of God. We see the same thing, but how different are the things we see. We see disasters in the world, and we react differently. The religious people of Jesus' day saw the man born blind and said this must be a punishment for sin. We have people like that in the world of today. People with a warped notion of God who see God's punishment in each disaster that occurs. According to them, Hurricane Katrina, the earthquakes in Haiti, 9/11, AIDS, and every other catastrophe has all been God's punishment for whatever these people consider sinful. Jesus did not see it that way at all, but saw rather the greatness of God being manifested in the blind man, perhaps even more than in others. It is possible that only a blind person can understand that statement. One of the most famous blind people was Helen Keller, born both blind and deaf. But she was blessed with what so many blind people are blessed with, an extremely developed inner sight. In 1932, Helen visited the Empire State Building and was taken to the observatory tower where there is an amazing view of Manhattan. She wrote later, "I will concede that my guides saw 1,000 things that escaped me from the top of the Empire State Building. But I am not envious, for imagination creates distances and horizons that reach to the end of the world. It is as easy for the mind to think in stars as in cobblestones. Look at the sightless Milton, who was able to dream visions that no one else saw. And by the radiance of his inward light, He was able to send rays of light to us so that we might be moved to the splendor of paradise. What would we do if we were suddenly to wake up one morning blind? One person might panic and despair, thinking their life was over. Another might praise God for the gift of physical blindness, realizing that they have finally been given the gift of inner sight, now that they no longer have to rely on the crutch of the physical senses. A blind person often sees much more than the rest of us. When we go to that window pane, do we see other people or do we see ourselves? When we see people suffering, do we insist on seeing God's punishment or do we see an invitation to do something to help? Let us open our eyes and see the hand of God beckoning us to the love that alone gives light to our eyes.